Hi everybody. I think I'm live. Live is just buffering. Hello everyone. It's good to see you. Here I am on a Wednesday again. We're locked down for at least another 3 weeks. And so our Parenting in a Pandemic series continues. I hope you're well and enjoying the sunshine. I just want to talk to you today about dealing with angry feelings and angry outbursts. I'm sure it's true for your children, and I'm sure it's true for you that you're also feeling under strain at times. I think we all are in our home too. And I want to just help you to think about managing those outbursts, but also helping to just find new ways of dealing with them. Now, what I'm going to say today only touches the surface because, as always, I'm taking the material from groups or courses that I facilitate. And today I'm taking the information from Handling Anger in the Family, which is from Care for the Family, as usual. And I will again point you towards their website. They do lots of great stuff for all kinds of parents. And all different circumstances in the family. And like everywhere, they've got COVID specific information and help right there. But this course that I facilitate is 4 2-hour sessions. And so I'm only going to scratch the surface. And it could be that you feel that you might like to do a course because we're all under strain. Certainly feel free to contact me. You can contact via our Facebook page, Salway Evangelical Church, at Salway EC. You can message through our website, and we get that, salway.org. And either of those messages will get through to me, or you can comment under this post. So, handling anger in the family. First of all, we just need to say, what is anger? Well, anger is something that we all have. It's part of our emotional range. And I want to say to you and to everyone, there's nothing wrong with anger. Anger is one of the tools that we have that helps us manage life. And if we handle it well, then it's a really good tool to have. If I didn't feel angry about certain things, then I would not affect change. So Greta Thunberg is somebody who is angry about what's wrong with the world, and she is using that as a fuel to change the world around her, and that's a really positive thing. And of course, there are many instances of social justice and charity work that are founded on this sense of something's not right, and I'm passionate about putting that right. So that's the first thing to say, that anger is one of the tools that we have, and there's nothing wrong with it. What is wrong, of course, is when we let it run away with us, when we handle it badly, and we can end up feeling that we've let ourselves down, we've let the people around us down, and yeah, we just need to do things better so that we don't lose control, so that we don't kind of just make situations worse rather than better, because anger is great for making things better. So at the moment, of course, we're much more concerned about managing life at home rather than changing the world. And one thing that we all probably recognize without thinking about it too hard is that we get stuck in patterns of behaviour. So we will often find with our older children and our teenagers that we are having the same irritating exchanges and conversations and arguments with them, because they do something or don't do something. We react in the same old way, and they react back in the same way, and we end up having that conflict, and all we do is make each other rather cross. And it might cool down, but then again, we do exactly the same thing next time. So we're stuck in patterns of behaviour that are not working for us. And so I'm just going to give you a few thoughts to making new paths in your emotional jungle. We get stuck in those patterns of behaviour because they're well-worn paths. And there's a certain sort of play in that, isn't there? That I know what he's going to say or she's going to say. They know how I'm going to react. Quite often they like to get that reaction out of us. And so it may be that when you start to try and forge a new path in your emotional jungle and try and find a new way of dealing with it, that those people that you interact with might be trying to hook you back to get that old reaction out of you, because there's a certain element of power in that. But so you do need to persist as the adult in the situation. And I have to say, because parents are the adults, we do have to take more responsibility for changing patterns of behaviour. We can show and share with our children, particularly our older children, but we cannot expect them to take the lead or to change unless we change the path that we're taking them down. So let's start with ourselves as parents. And I want to ask you as a parent, what is actually at the moment making you feel more angry? Or what are your anger triggers at the moment? We all have things that make us angry, but in COVID lockdown, there might be new things that are making you feel angry or shortening your fuse. So when other things happen around the house, then you are more quickly going to explode or seethe or sulk, whatever your anger reaction is. So just take a moment to think, what is actually making me behave angrily? And when you think about that question, you might find it's not actually things that are making me angry. My behavior might be angry, but my emotion might be anxiety or fear or frustration or a sense of helplessness or many other things besides. So take a moment to ask, what is causing me to behave angrily? You might be anxious about money or health, relatives that are that you can't visit at the moment that you're concerned about. You might be anxious about money or work. Will I have work to go back to? What about the mortgage in 2 months' time, etc. And then there are other sort of outward triggers like lack of sleep and tiredness. I know that a lot of us are maybe having a little bit more alcohol, and I wonder if that's causing us to react differently, that different chemical in our body. There might be other things, caffeine, or your diet's changed because you can't get the food you normally have. There might be all kinds of things that might make you behave more angrily, shorten that fuse. So just be self-reflective and think about that. We often act angrily because we have emotions that come out as anger, as we say, or we might feel threatened. We might have that sense of threat or dread of things to come, or of the uncertainty of the moment. And you might find that you have new triggers in COVID that you didn't have before, or some of your previous triggers are heightened. And we quite often more quickly made angry or act angrily when we have when we're feeling low, when our sense of self-esteem is low. So one little thing for parents, just to think about, how can you boost your own self-esteem so that you can be more patient in your family environment? What can you do to tweak maybe your new daily routine? Where can you find space for yourself? I know it's more difficult because we can't get out. We don't have the stimulation of work and those work relationships. We don't have those natural work, rest, chat, play, break routines. So how can you build something like that in? I've got a friend who I've spoken to a couple of times this week via online chats. And one thing that she's doing is getting up earlier and going out for a walk in the very early morning to a natural beauty spot in Epping Forest, and just finding the peace of nature and the beautiful early morning a tonic. And the other thing that she's doing is that she's getting up and dressed. She's putting on makeup, putting her hair up, putting on her like really nice earrings and clothes, because that's helping her feel better about herself, and that's helping her get through. So just think about yourself, your own routine. How can you tweak, as the adults in the situation, your COVID routine to boost your self-esteem? Because when that is higher, you will feel more patient. Your triggers will be less sensitive. And as parents together, if you co-parent with somebody in the same house, in the same household, try and encourage and boost each other's self-esteem. That's a little game you can play, but do it sincerely, obviously, otherwise it's not helpful at all. Boost one another's self-esteem to help you equip one another to get through. Now, for older children, it would be good to help them to also talk about their feelings and what triggers their feelings. Teenagers are moody at the best of times. I would say that they're probably feeling cut off from their friends, and probably their triggers are very sensitive as well. So it might be worth having a family meeting, and as always, couch it in something nice like a pizza evening, doing something that you guys find fun or cool, and then just take it in turns to go round and say how you are feeling. Now, just acknowledge your feelings. Never start with when you I feel. Always start with I'm feeling disappointed that COVID is going on. I'm feeling irritated. I feel crushed. I feel frustrated. Try and find a word that's more nuanced than I feel angry, because we're probably feeling lots of things, but it's the anger that we see, or angry behaviour. So talk nuance. Maybe you want to name one thing that you're finding positive and one thing that you're finding negative, and ask your older children and teens what they're finding good and what they're finding difficult. Listen to them, allow them to spend time telling you, acknowledge. You may well be surprised what it is that they're finding good and what they're finding difficult. And whatever it is valid. It's how they're finding life. So please listen and say things like, I didn't know that was difficult for you. Thank you for telling us that. So listen, acknowledge, and validate. For younger children, it's difficult for them. You might find that your younger children are having more tantrums or having more attention-seeking behaviour because for them, they can't name their feelings. It's much harder for them. So what you need to do is wait for them till they're ready to speak. So they might be acting out their feelings. They might be having tantrums. They might be being more stubborn. They might be being more tearful or more clingy, more aggressive, less willing to share. These are all things that show anxiety that cannot be verbally expressed. So obviously you need to just deal with that behaviour in a calm way, maybe by withdrawing them from a situation, by letting it just play itself out without shouting or giving them attention. And at a calm moment, when you've sort of made up, you can say to them, I think you were feeling very disappointed that we can't visit Granny anymore. I think you were feeling angry or frustrated or sad or cross, whatever you think it is that they're feeling. The more that we name feelings to them, and we can also say, I'm feeling angry or sad as well, the more that we do this, the more that we are helping them to name and describe how they feel rather than act it out. Of course, this is a long process and does not change quickly. You need to build that up over time, but it's worth investing the time to help them name and express feelings in a way that's not acting it out. I would say for younger children as well, while we're on the subject, just make a note of when those meltdowns happen. You might want to even jot it down in a notepad. You might notice it's always at the end of the afternoon, or it's after a particular something they've watched or a particular activity. You might notice it's when it's always half an hour before tea. So just think, are there ways in which you can tweak that routine to try and prevent some of these meltdowns happening? Make tea half an hour earlier. Get them in bed a little bit earlier because they're finding it exhausting. Talk to them about what will happen next after they've spoken to Granny or FaceTimed Granny, so that they're not just disappointed the conversation's over, but they know what is happening next. Try and make it a nice thing to look forward to. Talk about Granny to Granny with that. So now we're going to finish talking to you, Granny, because we're going to do such and such. Perhaps we can send you a picture of it, so on. Different things are always worth a try, but see what you can tweak and manage their expectations of what comes next. And I would say for all children, but thinking again about our older children and our teens, also thinking about ourselves and our partners, that as adults, as parents, we often want to fix a situation. We want to make it better for our children. And probably at the moment, one of our frustrations as parents is that we can't actually fix the situation. But to be honest, I want to say to you and encourage you that that is not what is required. What is far more important always to our children is not that we fix situations, but that we truly listen to them. What our children need more than anything else from their parents is that they are heard and understood, that we validate that. And if they have had a meltdown or a tantrum, or we've had an argument, that we completely restore them, that we obviously, if we need to apologize, we do so. We always model it, that we affirm them after an outburst, that we move on. This raises their esteem. Just being listened to, being truly understood, being affirmed, that's one thing that really raises our children's esteem. It takes away some of the sting of those negative feelings, and it will help them to have more bounce back ability. So that's just a few thoughts on managing negative feelings. There's loads more I could say, but obviously I don't want to try and bombard you and say so an 8-hour course in 20 minutes. That wouldn't help any of us, and it wouldn't do the course justice. It wouldn't do you or I justice. But do get in touch if you would like to take part in this course. If people are truly desperate, we might be able to investigate doing something via Zoom or online. But that's it today. Handling negative emotions. Next Wednesday, I will be back with another Parenting in a Pandemic. So until then, do stay in touch. And I look forward to hearing from you in the week.